This July, it's been 22 years since the release of Pirates of the Caribbean: The Curse of the Black Pearl, and recently Jerry Bruckheimer released a new movie, F1, which I highly recommend you go see. And with those two, I decided to do a ranking video of the 5 Pirates of the Caribbean movies. Now, I'm actually a fan of the Pirates of the Caribbean films. Well, most of them I enjoy. I think they're comfort adventure movies for in that I like to watch from time to time. Even if 2 sequels aren't as good as that first film, I do enjoy watching those movies even if they're not as good as that first film. Regardless of how the sequels varied in quality after the success of the first film, I'm really excited to do this ranking, so let's begin. And I'm excited to hear your ranking of the Pirates of the Caribbean films down below. Which ones are your favorites, least favorites, which ones are you mixed on? Or if you haven't seen all of them, that's totally fine. List the ones you have seen and let me know what you think of each film. And of course, this list is entirely my opinion. It's my own personal ranking. If there's a certain film on here you disagree with or placement, that is totally fine. Opinions respected. Let's begin the ranking. Drink up me hearties, yo-ho. Coming in at number 5 at the bottom is the 4th film, On Stranger Tides. After 3 was originally supposed to be the finale of Pirates of the Caribbean, they continued with a 4th film in 2011 with a new director, no Will Turner, no Elizabeth Swann. And I remember seeing it in theaters back in 2011 and in enjoying it fine. I was like, okay, that was fun enough. I haven't really rewatched the film that much since or really thought about it that much. And looking back to it recently for this ranking video, yeah, this movie really does not hold up at all, and this was just an unnecessary continuation. As for what I did enjoy about it, there is some charisma of Johnny Depp's Jack Sparrow, and I still think Jeffrey Rush is great as always as Captain Barbossa. The effects are still good, and I do enjoy 2 action scenes such as the London chase scene at the beginning, and the scene with the mermaids is definitely a highlight. And that's all I remember enjoying from this movie. Just with the story, with the search of the Fountain of Youth, and the characters we focus on aren't really that compelling for this movie, making it a chore to sit through. As for new additions, I wasn't really a fan of Penelope Cruz's character, and really her past romance with Jack Sparrow, I wasn't really that attached to. And disappointingly, I was not a fan of Ian McShane as Blackbeard. Now, just the idea of that. Ian McShane, a great actor, he was freaking Tai Lung in Kung Fu Panda. Him as Blackbeard in the Pirates of the Caribbean movie, oh my god, that sounds awesome. It was wasted potential. And maybe that could be the direction, but he felt wooden and didn't really relish that role enough, making for a forgettable villain performance. Now, Gore Verbinski did not direct this one. Instead, we have Rob Marshall, who came off a musical background with Chicago and Nine. And it just felt like he was a director for hire without Gore Verbinski. It just felt like he was just trying to do what Gore Verbinski did in the previous movies. And his direction here wasn't really a whole lot to write home about. And without Will Turner and Elizabeth Swann, and for who we get instead, we get a bland and uninteresting romance between a crew member and a mermaid. And just every scene with those two just grind the story to a halt and are just boring. And the scenes with those two just make me miss those 2 characters instead. When I was thinking about which is the worst Pirates of the Caribbean film and now confirmed it, this is the worst one of the franchise. Granted, it may be shorter than the previous movies, but it was just a dull, bland, boring, unnecessary, and ultimately forgettable addition to this franchise. And it just lacked that swashbuckling adventure excitement as the previous films. Coming in at number 4 was the last Pirates of the Caribbean film, the 5th film, Dead Men Tell No Tales. Now, this one was a moderate improvement over the 4th film, but just like that film, it is just an unnecessary and forgettable continuation of the franchise, and it reminded me how much this franchise is overstaying its welcome. As for the pros, is definitely Javier Bardem as Captain Salazar. I thought he made for an enjoyable villain here. Maybe not on par with his other villainous roles such as Anton Chigurh in No Country for Old Men or Silva in Skyfall. I still liked his backstory, how he was set up, his design was cool. But for an incredible Oscar-winning actor like Javier Bardem, I do wish he was in a better movie than this. And there were a few enjoyable sequences, such as the bank robbery early on in the film where they just robbed the entire bank and not just the money, which I found that pretty funny. And the climax with the Tide Sea does have its enjoyable moments. But for what doesn't work about this movie are the 2 new characters from Will Turner's son and the witch character. I forgot her name, but they are just so bland. And with focusing on these 2 bland characters, just make this film less compelling of a story and it just felt like a paper-thin standard Pirates of the Caribbean adventure movie. And I gotta say, as much as 4 was overusing Jack Sparrow a little bit, here, I think this is Johnny Depp's worst performance as Captain Jack Sparrow in this franchise. It just felt like he was just overdoing his comedic shtick and lacked that great spark he had in the first movie. And another issue, the effects in this film started to look unappealing and looked like a downgrade compared to the first 3 movies, which had phenomenal effects. And there was just some obvious green screen in this movie that took me out of the movie, and I was like, this had like a $200-something million budget, and the green screen is this bad? It wasn't all that funny, and most of the humor felt flat. And there was one reveal with Barbossa in the climax that should have been an emotional punch to the gut, and it just made me go, really? Okay, that's a reveal, and it just lacked that impact for me to truly care, and I was just like, whatever. And after that, it kind of just felt rushed and hollow. Although this movie wasn't a complete financial flop, it did underperform at the box office domestically compared to the previous Pirates of the Caribbean movies, and I could see why, as this one just felt like a forgettable and disposable addition to the franchise. Coming in at number 3 is, fittingly enough, the third film, At World's End. After Dead Man's Chest ended on a cliffhanger and made $1 billion worldwide, there was a lot of anticipation for this threequel to Pirates of the Caribbean. Now this is the one I view most people are split on. There are some people who hate this movie and think it's the worst film in the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise. Some people who were mixed on it and found it disappointing, and there are some people who either liked it or loved it and found it underrated. And what side am I on? I like this movie, and I find it to be the most underrated film in the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise. Now, yes, there are some criticisms of this movie I do agree on. This movie is way too long. At 2 hours and 49 minutes, it did start to get a little bloated with the story and how much is going on in this movie. I agree, and there are some over-the-top and ridiculous moments that kind of made me roll my eyes. I'm like, really? Especially in the climax, Will Turner and Elizabeth getting married during all this, during the battle. I understood that it was like, it's not the right time, but really getting married during all that? But you know what? I think this movie's a blast every time I watch it. I actually think At World's End has an engaging story with some finality to it. How it expands the lore of the Pirates of the Caribbean, exploring other different groups and lores of pirates, and just how this movie builds stakes until the climax, which is very exciting. Cast is still very good, from Depp, Bloom, Knightley, Rush, and Bill Nighy is still awesome as Davy Jones, and I'll say more on him at the second film. And I actually love seeing more of Davy Jones' humanity and his past with Calypso and why he is the way he is. And the climax at Maelstrom is incredible. How it just builds stakes, it's exhilarating, and I'd say it tops the action of the first 2 movies in my opinion. It has funny moments, it's thrilling, has a sense of finality to it, and followed by Beckett's death scene, I think that's one of the most epic moments of the franchise. And also Hans Zimmer's score, fantastic. After this movie did give closure to Jack, Will, and Elizabeth's stories, I've always felt like this franchise should have ended here, and it would have been a very satisfying swan song to me. And if you were to ask me which movie sequel I find underrated, one of those films is definitely Pirates of the Caribbean At World's End. Regardless of how some others may feel about this movie, I have a fun time with it. At the number 2 spot is the second film, Dead Man's Chest. 3 years after The Curse of the Black Pearl was a huge hit for Disney, it was critically acclaimed, a box office success, and this and At World's End were shot back to back, and those 2 movies were among the most expensive films ever made at the time of their release. And just like with At World's End, it's another sequel I find underrated, and it's definitely my favorite film in the Pirates of the Caribbean sequels. Even if I don't think it's as good as the first film, I find this to be an entertaining sequel. Now, some of my issues, it is definitely too long at 2.5 hours. It does start to feel a bit meandering with how much is going on in this movie, and there is a lot going on here, juggling 2 different stories. Regardless of those issues, this was an entertaining continuation of the franchise and focusing on our trio, and it actually gets a bit darker than the first film. While the cast is still great, Bill Nighy as Davy Jones absolutely freaking steals the show and is my favorite villain in the entire franchise. Just from the opening scene, Nighy owns and relishes this role to the max with an absolutely intimidating presence, his mannerisms, and his unforgettable design. And talk about CGI that is aged phenomenally. Looking back to this movie, I want to give huge props to every single VFX artist who worked on that movie. Just its design and the attention to detail and Bill Nighy's motion capture performance, it's all incredible. and it's honestly one of my favorite motion capture performances in film. And even with his menacing presence, he does get funny at times, but that doesn't overlook how terrifying he is. And the visual effects in this movie are still incredible for a movie that's nearly 20 years old. From Davy Jones' Henchman, a huge upgrade from the first film, and this is the only Pirates of the Caribbean movie to win an Oscar for visual effects, and I'd say that award was very well deserved. The action is fantastic and very well directed from Gore Verbinski. More creative and exhilarating action scenes. From Jack Sparrow escaping the cannibal tribe, that was a very fun sequence. An amazing water-wheeled sword fight. And the climax with the Kraken was fantastic and intense. And with the cliffhanger ending and Barbossa coming back, definitely got me excited for the third film. And with everything Dead Man's Chest established, from the MacGuffin with Davy Jones' heart, a fantastic villain, memorable sequences, strong performances, I still think Dead Man's Chest holds up as the best Pirates of the Caribbean sequel. And at the number 1 spot is of course the one that started it all, The Curse of the Black Pearl. This was such a lightning in a bottle blockbuster adventure film from Disney in the early 2000s. And crazy to think about, this was based on a theme park ride, and I've actually been on the theme park ride a long time ago at Disneyland. And this absolutely holds up as one of my favorite action adventure films and one of my favorite live action Disney films. And of course, what makes it memorable is of course Johnny Depp as Captain Jack Sparrow. Savvy? Regardless of what you may think about this character in the sequels, there is no denying with this movie, Depp was born to play this role. And this movie launched that character into a pop culture icon, and Johnny Depp was even nominated for an Oscar for Best Actor, although he lost to Sean Penn in Mystic River. Great movie, by the way, and great performance. And just from his fantastic opening scene, that's one of my favorite hero introductions, and all shown brilliantly without a single line. Just through his heroic theme and mannerisms from Depp, it's both funny and shows you everything you know about Jack Sparrow right from there. And Depp had the perfect balance of humor, charisma, when to be eccentric, and when to be serious at times, and which I kind of felt like the sequels did kind of miss. But it's not just Depp who steals the show. In the supporting cast, Jeffrey Rush as Hector Barbossa. What a great villain. And this was definitely a pirate villain role Rush was born to play, and just how much he owns the role and relishes every second, he looks like he's having a blast with it. Orlando Bloom and Keira Knightley are both great as Will and Elizabeth, and I actually did like their romance and they had solid chemistry with each other, and I like that the connection of pirates brought them together and not just bland love interest. No, there was something more to it than that. And for Gore Verbinski, coming off of his first big budget blockbuster movie, he did a fantastic job. From the top-notch visual effects, production design, costumes, makeup, and giving us an entertaining story and characters to focus on with this Black Pearl and these ghost skeletons. And the action is still very entertaining to watch and very well coordinated. So glad this movie became a huge hit in the summer of 2003, grossing over $600 million worldwide. One of the highest grossing movies domestically of the year 2003, up there with Finding Nemo and The Return of the King. Nominated for 5 Oscars, but sadly didn't win anything. I can understand why, as there was another little movie that dominated the Oscars that year, known as The Lord of the Rings: The Return of the King. I can't disagree there. That movie was a juggernaut. And this movie is even on the IMDb top 250 movies of all time list. What a fantastic start to the franchise that gave us that fun, exciting adventure feeling like the Indiana Jones movies. And even if none of the sequels were able to top this movie, it still holds up as an entertaining Disney adventure. And now right there is my ranking of the 5 Pirates of the Caribbean movies. And I have been hearing rumors if they might make a 6th film or not, bring Johnny Depp back or not. Honestly, I think the franchise should just stop right there. And if they do decide to not bring back Depp, I don't know if that would be a very good idea. He is what made that Pirates of the Caribbean movies exciting. And just without him, it wouldn't be the same, so I'm not sure about another continuation of Pirates. And again, to reiterate, I think it should have ended at 3. It would have been a nice trilogy. And again, I would like to hear your ranking of the Pirates of the Caribbean films. Which ones do you think are the best or the worst? Let me know down below. Did you enjoy this ranking video and want to see more videos like this in the future? If yes, please hit that like and subscribe button if you're new here. And don't forget that notification bell for my next upload in the future. It really means a lot. My social media links will be in the description down below. You can find me on Instagram and TikTok. And if you'd like to see my written reviews, I do have a letterbox, so if you'd like to follow me on there as well. And until the next video, I'm Jack Benner, and look forward to another movie review.